We're going to be playing Master Yi in the jungle, and the first question is why Master Yi? Well, for one thing, he's got a new awesome skin that I wanted to use in ranked, but more importantly, I picked him against a team that has only 2 reliable sources of crowd control. This is basically a good matchup for Master Yi if I can avoid getting stunned by Pantheon or Aurelia. The first thing I need to think about is what is Pantheon's jungle route going to be? I expect that he'll be starting at the bottom side of his map with the help of his bottom lane and working his way towards the top side. I do not want to get into a 2 versus 2 fight as Rumble and Master Yi versus Pantheon and Aurelia up in the top lane, so I warn Rumble to expect Pantheon and to play safe, and he acknowledges this. I start my jungle route at Raptors because this camp gives the most amount of experience. Clearing any 4 camps after will get me to level 4. Normally I'd secure both buffs and go for a level 3 gank in lane, but I cannot take the risk of running into Pantheon this early in the game, so I play more passively early on. Instead of taking Wuju style at level 2, I take Meditate instead and use it between camps to keep my HP up. While I'm doing the red buff, Pantheon goes for a very aggressive play in the bottom lane. He ganks the bottom lane at level 2 and gets a kill on both Rakan and Jinx for his team. However, I noticed that he only has his blue buff, which means his red buff must still be up, so I'm going to go into his jungle and take it. The crucial mistake that Pantheon made here is that he should have started as red buff and gone to his blue buff directly if he wanted to make such an aggressive play in the bottom lane. As we take the blast cone over the Baron wall, we come down to Trinket the River Brush. This is extremely important. We just took Pantheon's red buff and put him behind in levels. I guarantee you that he will be mad and he will look to strike back at us, so we need vision on him if he decides to enter our jungle. The Scryer's Bloom that he activates reveals to him that I've already taken my blue buff and that I'm at high HP in my own jungle, so he chooses to take the ward that I've set in the brush over coming after me. Afterwards, we continue farming as usual and nothing of significance happens for quite some time. There was a point where I thought Rakan was going to pick a fight down in the bottom lane, so I stopped doing Krugs to come by, but nothing came of it, so we went back to jungling afterwards. Bottom lane has been struggling for some time, but there isn't much that we can do for them yet. I come by to clear the control ward that the enemy bot placed in the river brush, place my own ward, and head back to base. As I recall back to base, things are about to get even worse down here. 6 minutes in, the enemy team goes for a 4-man gank on the bottom lane. Vlad comes in from behind, Pantheon comes through lane, and Karma lands a tether onto Jinx. The moment the stun activates, Jinx is dead, and my bottom lane is really not happy with me. Overall, this was a nice roam by the enemy Vlad. Since they just 4-manned the bottom lane and got Jinx, the enemy team is going to go for Dragon, which is a smart move. I reflexively head in that direction, thinking that I ought to do something, but quickly remember that just because a teammate pinged Dragon does not mean that I should be going there to take on the enemy team 1 versus 4 for a Dragon. Instead, I head into the top side of my jungle to farm Wolves and Gromp, allowing me to reach level 6 while Pantheon is still level 4 because of his early game jungle pathing. As we head up the river, Rumble gets Aurelia extremely low on HP under her turret. We decide to go for a tower dive on Aurelia, but unfortunately the minions aren't quite there yet, which turns this into a sloppy gank, so we end up going 1 for 1 instead. I knew going in that this was going to be an extremely risky gank because Aurelia is part of a class of champions who cannot be safely dived under tower because of her stun. After I respawn, I go clear the bottom side of my jungle and it's time to make some important decisions. My bottom lane is pinging for assistance as they are behind and their lane opponents are massively ahead. This is my one rule of ganking. Never ever gank a lane just because an ally pinged for it. If I go down there right now, I run a high risk of accomplishing nothing and returning to an empty jungle on the bottom side of the map. I would start falling behind. Never allow yourselves to fall behind. And so this is why I decide to head towards my topside jungle while my bottom lane is flaming me for being a jungler that never ganks. I'm going to clear the Scuttle Crab while keeping an eye on Aurelia to see if she overextends. I know that I'm going to get stunned, but I do have red buff, so I think that I can chase her down. I activate Ghost and go in for the gank, and with the help of Rumble, we manage to take down Aurelia. Afterwards, we shove the wave and take the enemy turret to get that first turret gold. At this time, Pantheon makes his own play in the bottom lane, ulting in with the Grand Skyfall and helping his team get a kill on Jinx and Rakan. Afterwards, both Cassiopeia and Aurelia teleport in. This was a poor choice by Cass as she is outnumbered and can't hope to stop the enemy team from taking the turret, but she does manage to get a kill on Aurelia while going down. Rumble teleports in afterwards, but once again this is a poor choice as he's trying to save a turret he cannot hope to save and he too goes down 1 versus 3. But luckily Jinx gets a kill on Ezreal at the end. While this clown fiesta was going on down bot, I was farming my jungle and looking on wondering what my teammates were thinking. But of course I keep that to myself, and nothing of significance happens for some time after that. When I come out of base, I'm about to head towards my bot side jungle to farm Krugs, but I see that my team needs me elsewhere. 13 minutes in, my team is trying to push the mid lane turret, and this will definitely draw retaliation from the enemy team, so I have to go there immediately. Vlad is low on HP, so Rumble goes in with his flamethrower and gets stunned by Pantheon and Aurelia. I charge in after both hard CCs are down, and with the help of Rakan we kill Aurelia, Vlad, and Pantheon. Rumble gets killed by Ezreal on the side, so we turn back onto him and kill him as well, and then we make it out of there at low HP. I don't have enough HP to take the turret with Karma around, so I decide to head down the river instead. I pick up some fruits for HP, and then I'm going to take the Mountain Drake. In terms of next steps for winning this game, we must take the mid turret or the bottom turret, as those are the easiest objectives that will get us one step closer to victory. I clear the red buff and Krugs, then head down bot to set up a lane gank in the brush. I go all in on Karma here and was hoping to kill both Karma and Ezreal, but Jinx misses her ability, so I end up taking too much damage and die before I can kill Ezreal. I make a mental note that Jinx has fallen too far behind and she is very demoralized, so I should not be expecting her to land her abilities perfectly. Rumble and Cassiopeia kill Pantheon in the river here, while we see on the minimap that his red buff is still up. This is very important, make a mental note of this as we will be coming back to it later. Now back on topic, if you die once expecting an ally who's behind to perform well, that's okay, that happens. If you die a second time counting on them to make a play, then that is entirely your fault, as you should have known better. 16 minutes into the game, Aurelia is pushing the top lane pretty hard, so we go up there. We are ahead, she is behind, so we activate Ghost and kill her, nothing fancy here. As we're killing Aurelia, note that Pantheon is about to respawn and his red buff is still up, so there's a very high probability that he will go to it, but we can get there before he does since we're closer. We go take Pantheon's red buff, and as expected we run into Pantheon while we're in the area. We kill him and we're back on our way, but the point here is that this was not a coincidental encounter, this was entirely predictable. Now our next objective is to take the second mid turret or second bot turret. We try to push mid, but the enemy team does a great job of clearing the minion waves and we're forced to pull back. Cassiopeia and Rumble teleport to the bottom lane to help Jinx as Aurelia teleports down there to kill her. What follows is a lengthy skirmish as Jinx takes the first bottom side turret and we push towards the second bottom side turret. I probably should have been more helpful to my team here instead of doing the Rift's Cutler while everyone else was fighting. We lose Rumble along the way, but we managed to take the second bot side turret as well. As we're retreating back to base, Cassiopeia gets caught up by the enemy Karma in the red team's jungle. I jump in to her rescue and kill Karma quickly, and then I get carried away trying to chase down Ezreal. This was a really bad chase as Ezreal gets away and I'm stuck overextended in the enemy team's territory as Pantheon comes in to stun me. The worst part is I dragged down our support along with me, and Rakan had some comments about how stupid this play was, and what he said was entirely true. After a respawn, I'm going to grab the red buff and prepare for a standoff at the Dragon Pit. Luckily for us, Vlad is at the second mid turret and will not be joining this fight, so I take the dragon hoping that the enemy team will not engage with Vlad and the gambit pays off. If Vlad had been in the area, I would have to play this much more cautiously. Next up, we need to take the second mid turret or the second top turret. It's not safe for me to be there in melee range of a tower, not to mention that since I'm the one who's fed, there's a 90% chance that Pantheon and Aurelia will save their stuns for me, which means team fighting is going to be a challenge. To get around this, I'm going to split push the bottom lane since I can take on any one player on their team and they must send more than one person to stop me from pushing. In this example here, I've pulled Aurelia, Ezreal, and Karma to the bottom side where they're trying to stop me from pushing. As a result, my team puts a lot of damage onto the second mid turret at mid, and Pantheon ults in 1 versus 3 trying to stop it and gets killed for his efforts. 4 members of the red team then chase 4 members of my team down the mid lane where they lose 2 more people. We might not have gotten the second mid turret, but while all this was going on, I managed to get the bottom side inhibitor and I retreat back to safety. There will now be a wave of super minions coming down the bottom lane, and this sets the stage for the final play of the game. I'm going to have my team head towards the Baron. If anyone on the enemy team goes to stop the minion waves down bot, which they will have to at some point, I'm going to force the Baron, which will force the enemy team to react. Aurelia goes to push the waves in the bottom lane, and that is my cue to start the Baron. Yes, Aurelia does have teleport, so this could turn into a 5v5 very quickly. However, this is solo queue and the odds of the red team making a well-coordinated counterplay at Baron is very low. Pantheon and Vlad come in just after we got the Baron and we kill Pantheon immediately and then turn on Vlad, Karma, and Ezreal. Aurelia teleports in too late and we wipe out 4 members of the enemy team and push for the Nexus with our Baron buff, winning the game. Now you might wonder, what could the red team have done differently to win this game? I don't doubt for a moment that the red team blamed Vlad and Aurelia for this loss, but ultimately the most significant error of the game was committed by Ezreal and Karma. Yes, this might seem counterintuitive because they have the best KDA on the enemy team, but KDA does not mean anything when your Nexus blows up. Karma and Ezreal got massively ahead in lane. They should have taken our bottom turret and rotated mid to force down our mid turret with their massive gold lead. Had they done that, the game would have gone very differently and we could have lost. But because they chose to stay in lane for 13 minutes straight, they ultimately lost control of the map and the game as a whole. Vlad had the right idea when he came down bot to help them. Rumble had the right idea when he came to push mid. Aurelia had the right idea when she came mid to fight back against the push. Had the enemy Karma and Ezreal rotated, they'd have exerted the strongest influence on the map, but their failure to do so is why the red team lost. The next time you get a massive lead, do remember that with great power comes great responsibility to shape the outcome of the game. If you enjoyed this video, do subscribe to the channel, follow on Twitter, and check out the video links on either side. Leave a comment about the kind of content you'd like to see in future videos, and check out the Patreon link if you'd like to support this channel directly.